Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Barnstable's formal site plan review. Today's date is April 18th, 2024. My name is Brian Florence, and I'll be the chair of this meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I need to ask if anyone else is recording, and if so, please make yourself known. I'll let the record reflect. I do not see anybody identifying themselves. So this is being conducted in accordance with the Town of Barnstable zoning ordinance, section 240-24, 1.2B4, which requires that development and modifications that meet or exceed the thresholds established in subsection B4 in the downtown Hyannis zoning district shall be reviewed by the building commissioner or his designee at a public meeting at which comment shall be allowed. So I'm letting you know, folks know that anyone from the public will be allowed to speak, and I'll make that opportunity available towards the end here. The purpose of site plan review is to ensure that the site plan for a proposed development is in compliance with the local, state, and federal regulations before a project is submitted for permitting. To that end, this meeting brings all of the town's regulatory agencies together in one place so that you don't have to go from department to department to try to understand what is required in order to obtain a permit. While we may, as a courtesy, provide insight into what regulations may apply to your project during the permitting process, this process should not be construed to be an approval of activities regulated elsewhere, such as plumbing codes, building codes, licensing, historic district, etc. The way our process works is we'll read your case into the record. You, as the applicant, will have an opportunity to give a brief presentation. From there, I will ask for staff comment and/or questions. As you're giving your presentation, I'm going to ask, because this is a public meeting, I'm going to ask that you put your site plan up for review, and then when you're done with your presentation, you can drop it. Once staff has completed their portion of the meeting, I'll open the floor to the public for comment. Please raise your hand or indicate through Zoom that you wish to be heard. It'd be helpful if you could mute your microphone until you're called on to speak, and we ask that you state your name before speaking. If you need to share your screens, we'll obviously make arrangements for you to do that. If you don't know how to do it, let us know, and somebody will try to give you a hand with that. Maggie takes notes of this proceeding and will provide our applicants with a letter outlining any outstanding matters or conditions that need to be addressed. So please don't feel like you have to take copious notes. We're going to try to do that for you. With that said, we can, and housekeeping out of the way, we'll go ahead and get our meeting started this morning. Maggie, would you mind reading our first case, please?
Morning. Our first and only case today is site plan review 24-9 with public comment is for 473 Main Street Partners LLC, represented by Matt Eddy and attorney David Lawler. Address is 473 Main Street in Hyannis, map parcel 308084. The zoning is downtown Main Street, as well as the AP overlay and the Hyannis Historic District. The applicant is proposing the partial demolition of two buildings, demolition of the existing indoor pool building, and construction of a 4-story multifamily housing building fronting Main Street. This application is being continued from 3-5 and 4-2 informal site plan review meetings.
All right, thank you, Maggie. And who would like to start today?
Just to introduce myself, David Lawler, on behalf of the applicant. We have Jessica Rosenberg, the developer, online. The people doing the real work here will be Matt and Devin. I'm just kind of for show, Brian. But with respect to, for your information, we at the informal indicated that we were intending to go to historic last night. That got postponed because one of the members who was sitting on the board at the first hearing could not make the meeting, and due to quorum, not necessarily quorum, but strategic, but you just can't allow, only 4 people to be able to vote, and it's just not probably a good idea on behalf of the applicant. So we postponed that till May 1st. I just wanted to provide that as a bunch of information. And as I indicated, the two two experts here, Devin and Matt. I'll pass the ball over to Matt first, I think, and we'll start running from there.
Thank you.
Ready. Thanks, Dave. For the record, Matthew Reddy, professional engineer with Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying. As everybody's kind of pointed out, we had a couple of informal site plan review meetings. I believe we've addressed all of the comments. We made the necessary abutter notification on April 3rd and uploaded that information to the town portal site. So with that, if I could share my screen, is that okay?
Please.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right, great. So I'm just going to walk through the existing conditions to start, and then I'll walk through the proposed redevelopment. So as has been stated, the site location is 473 Main Street in Hyannis. The total lot area is 2.01 acres. We have approximately 230 feet of frontage along Main Street. There's over 200 feet of frontage along High School Road and over 100 feet of frontage along South Street. Obviously, this is downtown Hyannis, so we are surrounded by retail, by restaurants, office space, and some residential single-family and multifamily, and actually a couple of churches as well. So we have it all around us. So the site is currently developed with 5 buildings. There's 57 hotel units, and you may recall back last fall, this is what we're referring to as Building E. This is going through currently a renovation and conversion to apartment units, 20 apartment units that was approved through formal site plan review, and then also received a use variance from ZBA. The entire site is, developed with these structures, with a parking lot. There is some minimal landscaping on the site as well. There are no resource areas, environmental resource areas. Zoning districts, as Maggie mentioned, this is a split zone. We have DMS here. The zone line is right here. So DMS to the north and DN to the south. Approximately 1.32 acres of the site is in the DMS, and that's really where the majority of the work that we're going to be talking about for what we're calling phase 2 is in this in the DMS zoning district. This is in the AP overlay, so no GP or WP. It's also in the Main Street historic overlay. As David mentioned, they are going through the historic review. And just to kind of follow up with what Dave mentioned, they have had one initial meeting. Last night's meeting that got postponed was the second meeting, so there has been some comments that they've addressed architecturally with the building, which I'm going to point out a couple, very minor, and Devin will probably point those out as well. I don't really think they affect the site plan per se. Access to the site, access off of Main Street, existing curb cut here. There are 2 curb cuts off of High School Road here, and one on South Street. The existing parking lot contains approximately 88 parking spaces. Site's currently connected to public water and sewer. Does have some existing drainage on site. We have overhead and underground power and datacom services, and natural gas is also serving the site. So with that, I'm going to jump to the proposed. Again, I'm going to kind of zoom in on this area here to the north. Again, this is what is under construction for the conversion that I mentioned. This is really the bulk of phase 2. So this is a renovation of buildings A, B, and C, A, B, C. They will stay as hotel units. They are being renovated. Obviously, the demolition of, when you look at the existing condition plan, there's an appendage here that comes off of building C. That's the pool building area. And then there was also a lounge and restaurant on the ends of A and B. Those 3 sections are being raised and demolished for this phase redevelopment. Building F is the new proposed building. It's a 4-story building fronting on Main Street. We have commercial space on the first floor as required by zoning, meeting the zoning requirements for that. There are 45 residential apartments proposed on the back of the first floor and then the upper 3 floors. And that is one of the adjustments that was made going through historic And again, I'll let Devin expound, but one of the comments made was creating a connector, which is actually nice, through from Main Street to the back parking lot on the site. And so in doing that, a few units, apartment units were lost. So we're actually down to 45 units as opposed to 48, which were previously. Building D is unchanged and is, I believe, planned to act as a manager's office. So that will end up yielding on the site 66 apartments total. That's including building A, and 56 hotel rooms. From a zoning perspective, obviously we're here for formal site plan review with the public notice that's been made, Main Street Historic, which we've talked about, and we will need a special permit from planning board. Mainly, the special permit aspects are mainly revolving around the parking aspects, both count and dimensional. As far as the, meeting the zoning aspect, the proposed building and use and modifications are allowed in the DMS zoning district. And as mentioned, the building E received a use variance previously for the conversion to the residential apartments. Access, which I think is a fairly significant improvement. Again, we had an existing access, vehicle access into the parking lot off of Main Street that is being closed as part of this project. That is actually identified in the zoning ordinance as a specific benefit criteria, which would hopefully will help with some of the parking reduction that we are requesting. We've also better defined the access off of High School Road, and then obviously this parking lot has been fully reconstructed. We have now calculated that 136 parking spaces are required. We're providing 110. That includes this one parallel parking space on Main Street, which is being added where this is where the entrance is getting closed. So we're able to pick up a parallel parking space. So we are counting that. 5 accessible parking spaces are provided, which meets code. Again, as far as parking dimensional relief being sought, as far as really setbacks from buildings, we're less than 10 feet from parking the building. And then the perimeter parking really on the existing down here. This is being unmodified, so it's pre-existing non-conforming, and it's not being changed. The overall landscaping was again pre-existing non-conforming, but as we have gone through and formal with the area that's being reworked, we have added landscape islands, et cetera. And for this area, we are meeting the interior landscape requirement of 10%. There is a landscape plan that's provided by a professional landscape architect, licensed landscape architect, Ben LaFrance with Hawk Design. He wasn't able to be here today, so I will share his plan and just walk through that briefly. Pedestrian circulation being provided. Again, walkways throughout the site. The main intersection here at High School Road and Main Street, crosswalk, all the walkways down Main Street here. This is really the main entrance into the building, but then obviously I think we have another 3 or 4 entrances into the building along Main Street. Again, pedestrian circulation provided connecting out to High School Road along all of these existing buildings, and then also this added passage walk through at grade from Main Street to the parking lot. Bike racks are also provided, will be provided in this area, is where they're planned for. From a trash enclosure, dumpster area, there's an existing dumpster here. This area is being reworked to provide 3 dumpsters. The enclosure will be provided on those dumpsters, and it meets the 10-foot offset from the property line as required by the health department. And with that, I'm going to jump to actually, I'll mention this here real quick. Had several discussions with Captain Landman on the tower access into the site, and working with the captain, we made some modifications. You may recall we discussed those at informal. We actually modified the radius here, dropping a parking space and providing the tower access as you see on this plan. And I believe Captain Landman found that was acceptable and gave them the proper access that they needed. So to drainage and grading. We're providing stormwater management, new stormwater management system here in the center of the parking lot that is picking up all this entire phase 2 redevelopment, control storms through the 100-year storm. Had a fair amount of dialogue, I'd say, with Matt over at DPW. Have responded to his comments. I believe we have addressed all of his comments satisfactorily, but I will let him speak to that. The site is meeting for redevelopment, the DEP stormwater policy as well. Utilities. Again, we will be maintaining, obviously, the public sewer connections. There's a lot of utilities, existing utilities going on, so there's going to be some coordination through the construction documents as it's submitted for building permit. Again, I've had some discussions with Matt at DPW, with Hans at Water, and also Robert Duffy with plumbing. And you can see how we're proposing to connect, but there's a couple of areas which we've added some notes based on review with staff as far as the final disposition of like some of this existing sewer line that comes through building F. You know, we may allow it to come through, or this aspect here may tie into the new waste line within building F and then connect out here where it currently connects. We've added a sampling manhole as DPW required. Again, I think from the water standpoint, Hans was happy with the layout. We're providing domestic and fire service connections for building F here. And we will be working with Hyannis Water for the existing services to A, B, and C. There's a common meter pit here, so I believe Hans is going to be looking for a modification to 2 services, but we will work through the details with him as we get into the construction documents. And I believe, again, I've addressed all the site plan review comments, I believe, with staff. So again, you know, we'll be happy to answer any additional questions that you may have. Before I turn it over to Devin, just wanted to share the landscape plan. Again, as I said, Ben wasn't here. This has been submitted to the town for site plan review. There has been, again, this modification with this pass through for historic. So it's really enhanced. I think it's really come out nice. We have this nice walkthrough here. They've added some brick areas at the entranceways here per historic comments, and so we really have, you know, create a nice front presence on Main Street. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Devin and let her just touch briefly on the architectural elements. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, let me share my screen now.
Please.
Where is it? Hmm.
You want me to
Sarah's got
share?
something that
Yeah, Matt, can you share? It's not letting me.
Sarah may need to allow you to do that.
Oh,
No,
okay.
everybody has the ability to share screen, so I'm not sure what the problem is.
Okay, thank you.
Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Go ahead, Devin.
Thanks, Matt. So as Matt said, the first floor is a mix of commercial and a couple units in the back. The commercial is still subject to change. We haven't married any units in there, but that's just for show. We have moved all the mechanicals from the roof down onto the first floor, which was the reason for the loss of units in the back, and now we only have the studios on the left side. We have the walkway from Main Street to the parking lot, which will be locked for the main part, and you'll have to fob entry in and out. So, but it is a nice feature that was brought up in historic and one of the many changes that were made. Okay. On the second floor, we have a mix of studios and 1-bedrooms, and also on the third floor would be a mix of studios and 1-bedrooms, and setback 8 feet per code. The fourth floor has few patios or balconies off of a couple of the units that front Main Street and High School Street. But again, mix of 1-bedrooms and studios. And then the elevations. Oh, I do have the ability to share my screen, Matt. I don't know if you'd like me to.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. All right, everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we already went through this. I added in the landscape architects, brick at the entryways, brick at the walkways, and a nice brick detail at the covered terrace. Second and third floor, fourth floor. And then we, per historic comments, we changed the roof line and brought it down from 57 feet down to 50 feet, which was a nice change. That was also with putting the mechanicals on the first floor, we were able to bring that roof down the 7 feet. The brick is staying on the first floor, but we are bringing it up in a few areas, and the colors have shifted from a blue and a off-white to a nice classic white and an off-white shingle. This is the entryway from Main Street to the rear parking lot, and these are the different storefronts that will be the commercial spaces, and then the residential entry on the left side. Through historic comments, we also changed the rear of the building and, updated the two side elevations. And that is about it. It's the nice images, landscape added to them. Looks nice.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Matt or Dave, any final? You are muted, sir.
I think we're ready to turn it over to staff and happy to answer any.
I'm sorry, Matt. I just wanted to say one
Oh.
thing. I was muted. Yeah, and obviously, I'm sure Kate will bring it up, but we obviously need some zoning relief, and in particular parking, and there is a plan in place for certain off-street parking that's relatively close, very walkable. That was, I just wanted to point out the obvious, which I'm very good at. So.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, we'll bring it back to staff. Maggie, have you received any correspondence on this matter?
No additional correspondence, Brian.
Great, thank you. And we'll start with planning and development today.
Thank you, Brian. Kate Maldonato, Planning and Development. Comments are consistent with informal site plan review, but I'll present them so for the record. First comment is that due to the scale of this proposal, it met the threshold at which formal site plan review was required. And as the applicant has mentioned, that also entailed notice to properties within 300 feet of the property. Additionally, due to the scale of this project, a landscape plan signed and stamped by a registered landscape architect is required, as the applicant has mentioned, and also the applicant will need to provide financial security for plant installation and maintenance of the plants, and that will need to be provided prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy. The subject property is within the Main Street Waterfront Historic District. As the applicant has mentioned, they are before that commission right now to receive approval because there's alterations visible from the public way. In accordance with the downtown Main Street zoning district, there is a requirement for commercial space along 100% of the frontage to be at least 20 feet deep, as the applicant has described as well. In accordance with Chapter 9, the town's affordable housing, a minimum of 10% of the units need to be deed restricted. So that's at least 7 units shall be deed restricted. The regulatory agreement associated with those affordable units will need to be recorded at the registry prior to issuance of occupancy. The rental units should be registered. Staff does suggest incorporation of 2-bedroom units. A special permit will be required due to the fact that relief will need to be sought for the parking reduction or for off-site parking from the plant, and that special permit will need to be sought from the planning board. And then lastly, we suggest coordination to repair the sidewalk along the frontage of Main Street in collaboration with Department of Public Works and incorporation of street trees where possible in accordance with the code. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to touch on the historic district bit real quick. Under section 240-105, section D, the building commissioner may solicit the advice of any other town agency or department he deems necessary to properly make a determination required by this article. I'm going to need to require that the historic district process be completed before final approval is granted here. That said, we will bring it up next to engineering, DPW, please.
Matt Roble, DPW Engineering. Like Matt had mentioned at the beginning of his presentation, most of our comments with him have been addressed. So I'm going to just keep it to the advisory comments that still carry through, and one note regarding the elevator sump connection. So first and foremost, just want the applicant to be aware that they need to file for a road opening permit, sewer connection permit, and a stormwater management permit with Barnstable DPW prior to commencing construction activities. Matt, new one in that is the stormwater management permit. Right now, that's something that's going through town procedure as far as being formally adopted. By the time that you guys get through and start on construction, we expect that that should be ready to go. So just to give you guys a heads up about that permit. Everything that we've worked in stormwater wise already should more or less address that to begin with. Next comment is just that the applicant's team will need to coordinate with the Barnstable DPW tree warden on any plantings within town-owned right-of-ways. Also want the applicant to be aware that any sidewalks or curbs within the public right-of-ways that are disturbed or damaged by construction activities will need to be replaced up to DPW standards. And then the last comment that I had just more or less has to do with the elevator sump connection. It is shown currently as being connected to the stormwater management system as we had requested, but we just want to make sure that an oil water separator is provided in the building if there isn't going to be one provided on the exterior. I figured that may be something that comes up with the plumbing plans as they move through. So we just asked to have that reviewed once those plans are submitted. No further comments at this time.
Great, thank you. Public health, please.
Thank you, Brian. David Stanton with Public Health. The only comment we have is they will need to register the rental units that are residential with the Health Division. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And speaking for the building division, so building permits will be required for the demo and for each of the buildings constructed. For the buildings that are remaining in place with alterations, we'll need a 2015 International Existing Building Code analysis by a registered design professional. And the projects will be completed under construction control. Just take care to ensure that any handicap accessibility requirements are met through 521 CMR. And I just want to give you a heads up in advance. This may be, we may require third-party review and inspections on the construction plans and review. So with that said, I'm going to exercise my authority under 240-105D, as I said, and I'm going to hold off on a final approval until we hear from the from the historic district. And so that concludes staff comment. I would open this up to public. If anybody from the public would like to make a comment, please make yourself known. Okay, seeing none, I will take the matter under advisement until we hear from the historic district, and I thank you for your time and attention, folks.
And just assuming that a positive historic comes back, we don't have to come before you again, correct?
Yeah, so exactly. The problem I have with doing an approval now is it would have to be contingent upon historic district approval, and if they make you change something that necessitates another change for site plan review, I don't want to have to,
No, I understand. No, it's a chicken or an egg thing. I understand. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll wait to hear from them. If there's no issues, then you can proceed. If there are issues, we may have to have you back for a formal just to address anything that they require that affects this process.
Perfect. Hoping not to have any.
Good.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Great. Yeah, thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
very much. You have a good day, folks.